Hello, Shabbat Tov, everybody. I hope you're well. I hope you've had an amazing Shabbat Chanukah. I hope your donut count is more than zero. If it's anything at zero, then you definitely need to join us now because we're going to be making something called Struffoli, which I believe are mini donuts. I'm delighted that we are doing a cook-along with Silvia Nacamulli, which is one of the many events that we are doing to celebrate Hanukkah. Every night there's going to be an online Hanukkah lighting. Tomorrow for kids, there's an online kids party. We had children's services today. We've got Hanukkah in the stadium later on in the week, although that is sold out. Very soon, it's happening. There's something very cool for women happening on Wednesday night as well. So I'm delighted that we are doing cooking along with Silvia Nacamulli. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Silvia, and then for those of you who are watching me do this introduction on Facebook, I've put in the comments the link to the Zoom page. Please feel free to come and join us and to join along. Silvia Nacamulli is a London-based cook, well-recognised name in the international food and cooking circuit. Born and bred in Rome, surrounded by her home country's passion for food, and trust me, I've been to Rome, the food there is stunning. Silvia specialises in a range of fields within Italian Jewish cuisine. She runs, and I can't say the next phrase because I'm going to completely butcher the Italian, but I'll give it a try, La Cucina di Silvia, Cooking for the Soul.
Very good.
Thank you. Where she teaches, caters, and delivers delicious traditional home cooking. Silvia is often invited to lecture on history of Italian Jewish cookery at universities and other learning institutions, and is a regular columnist for the Jewish Chronicle, better known as the JC. And she is currently writing her first book, Jewish Flavors of Italy. So I'm super excited. We're going to be cooking along with Silvia. For those of you who are cooking along, maybe feel free to turn on your camera as well so that we can see what's happening. I'm going to be cooking along. I saw a few of you others are putting on the or preparing your ingredients. So for those of you who are on Facebook who want to join in, join on the Zoom link. I'm going to be logging up for Facebook in about a minute's time, so feel free to join in. But Silvia, I'm going to cancel my spotlight and make you the spotlight. Yes. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. I think it's a pleasure to be here with Shabbat. Shabbat Tov to everyone and Chanukah Sameach. I am really delighted to be part of your community. I think that's the good thing about Zoom. You can reach out to different parts of London and beyond in a click of a mouse, really. So a lovely introduction. So you heard a little bit about me, and I will tell you a little bit more about what I do and about the history of Italian Jewish cuisine and the history of this specific dish. But I'm going to hold on to that just because we're going to make the struffoli, precipizzi, and I'll tell you about both names, which involves making a little bit of a dough, which is just about 5 minutes. And then the dough itself needs to rest in the fridge for about 15 minutes or so, maybe 10, 15 minutes. And in that time, I will tell you a bit more about the history of the dish and about what I do. Is that all right? So if at any stage you have any question, please, you can just type it, and the Rabbi very kindly is gonna read it out, or perhaps you can just mute yourself and you can just ask any question, okay? And if you want to share with me how your dough is looking, or if anything that looks slightly unusual, then just let me know, but it should hopefully be straightforward. Now, there are two versions of the struffoli precipizzi. There's one which is parve and one which is dairy. I believe you got both version of the options of both. Is that correct? So if you're doing it parve, you're going to use 150 grams of flour. And there I say a flour called 00, which in Italy is mostly the flours that we use with almost everything we do. Any kind of dessert or pasta, we would use a 00. Bread, we would use a strong bread flour, but anything else is that. Otherwise, a good alternative is a plain white flour. So if you're doing the parve version, it's 150 grams. If you're doing the dairy version with ricotta cheese, it's 180 grams because you have a bit more wet. And the only difference also between the parve and the not is the fact that if you are doing it dairy, then I do recommend to use butter. If you haven't melted your butter, that's a good moment to go and do it. You can just put it in the microwave. It doesn't need to cook, it just melted and doesn't need to be hot either. This one is cool down. You can use margarine instead if you want, or perhaps just a couple of tablespoons of sunflower oil or vegetable oil, kind of neutral oil if you're doing the parve version. And if you're doing the dairy version, you have about 50 grams of ricotta cheese. So you should have a bowl. Oops. And we're gonna pour in it the flour. And we're gonna create, I usually create, sorry. We're gonna create a little kind of well in the middle. You can do this also with a mixer if you want, but it's quite a straightforward mixture, so you can just, I think it's quite fun also to do it by hand. So we have 1 egg and 1 yolk, and the zest of lemon, or you can mix orange and lemon, or you can just use orange. It gives a little bit of a flavor. And also the sugar. This is 2 tablespoons of sugar, which is about 30 grams. Okay, and you can mix everything together slightly. Okay, and then we're gonna add the ricotta cheese. There's not necessarily importance of the order. The idea is to really mix everything together. Okay, so it doesn't really matter which one you add first or second or third. Okay, just mix everything together as we get on. And then the butter or the oil, if you're using it, you want to make sure you get all of it. And the idea now is to really mix everything together. So I usually start with a fork because it's quite wet, or with a little whisk or whichever you want. And you just start mixing the ingredients. Another one important is a pinch of salt. Now, I always add a little pinch of salt in any dessert that I make. What salt does enhances flavors of things. So it's going to bring a balance between all the different elements. Okay, so we're going to mix together. And once it becomes, I'm going to show you how it looks at the moment. Okay, and once it's going to continue to absorb the flour and becomes too hard to work with the fork, I'm just going to put it on the work surface, and I'm going to work it by hand a little bit. Okay, so maybe just a little bit more.
Very quick question. Is it 2 tablespoons or 2 teaspoons of sugar?
Tablespoon.
Fine.
Is the right teaspoon? TSP. TBSP, tablespoon. Yes.
Tablespoon, thank you.
Yeah, it's always, I should write it as a whole word. Apologies on that. Yes, it's a tablespoon, which is not actually much. The reason is that that is not much is also because we're going to put the honey at the end. Okay, so the little donuts, they need to have a little bit of flavor, but they don't need to be too sweet. Okay, so we're going to mix it, and I'm gonna remove all the things we don't need, and now I'm gonna start working it by hand. Okay, so I'm doing the dairy version, so I've got 180 grams of flour, and the dough is gonna be a little bit sticky at the end. Okay, it doesn't need to be, it's not a hard dough, so you just want to incorporate all the flour in, and you just, as you were working, I'm sure you make often your challah on a Friday, or fresh pasta, or gnocchi, or any bread. The idea is always kind of the same. You fold it a little bit, and with the palm of your hand, you kind of knead down. And if it's really too dry, you can add a little bit more flour, but don't rush to it, because you really want it to be quite sticky. So if it's a bit sticky, it's okay. Okay, just as long as you can work it enough and doesn't stick too much, then it's going to be fine. Because if you put too much flour, then the dough is going to become a bit too hard. Okay, so you want to just fold everything together. And look, I'm going to show you now. It's all a bit kind of can you see? Actually, I'm going to ask you about the light because I have a couple of options. Is it better like this or like this? I don't know. I'm going to do that like this, or maybe a little bit, maybe something in between, or something like this, maybe.
Perfect.
Okay, I just wanted to see. Yeah, okay. So because the lighting in the evening, it's always a little bit of a tricky thing. So I have a lovely machine at the back of my phone, which is round, which gives gives some light from behind, which is very helpful. But then when I bring things a little bit close, sometimes it can flash the light a little bit too strong. So this is a lovely mat to have, which doesn't move, which is really a great thing to have, by the way. So it's a little gadget to have. And the great thing about the soufgagnotte also, with not this little struffoli, which differently from the soufgagnotte, is like the soufgagnotte which I made that last night, by the way, and they're delicious. But when you fry them, they do actually feel the fried on the taste. Well, actually, this struffoli, you kind of drop in the oil, they cook quite quickly, and when you drain them, they have like a really nice coat outside that makes it a little bit kind of crunchy. Inside you can feel the doughy, so they don't really feel heavy at all. Then you can decide either to eat them on the same night when the honey is just put in and it's almost still warm and it's really nice, or you can then let them sit for the evening, and then the next day or 2 days later even, they will absorb all the honey, in which case I suggest always to give it a little stir. I think someone had a question. I can just see something popping up, but I can't quite read from here. So I don't know if it is a question, then do you mind, Rabbi, just reading it out, or perhaps the person can unmute themselves and ask.
The question is, ours is a bit orange. Is that okay? Although having a look at mine is very orange. So I probably got the same
orange. Oh yeah, nothing wrong with orange. Orange could be because maybe the color of the yolk. Okay, this is ready actually. The color of it's funny actually. In Italian, the yolk, we call it il rosso dell'uovo, which is the red of the egg. If you go to the market and get the really fresh eggs, they tend to have this kind of deep orange color. So for me, like an orange in a dough, it means like it gives us a sense of real freshness. So it could be, but if you put orange zest, then perhaps it's the reason. But otherwise, this is how it should look now. Right now, you see it's a little bit sticky, but not too bad. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna wrap it with a little bit of cling film. And you can leave it either room temperature or in the fridge. You can even wrap it on a clean tea towel. It's fine. And we're going to let it be because we want the gluten to start to work. So it's going to be easier to then roll out. And you can go and put it in your fridge. And then you can wash your hands. And I'll come back in about 30 seconds. And I'll tell you more a little bit. Is anyone any question on the working on the dough? And most of you gonna make a dairy one or a parve one, and I'll tell you the difference in flavor between the two if you're gonna have the two.
I know mine is parve, mainly because I don't want to get my deep fat fryer milky later.
Fair enough.
The dough feels very similar in a way to pasta.
Yes, it does actually. It does. It has something to do. Yes, it's kind of. If you think about the pasta's got flour and egg and a bit of salt. So this one has got the addition of the sugar. In this case, the ricotta. So I'm going to switch off my machine. It's going to make a bit of a noise. That's the. Here we go. So yes, perhaps the pasta it's a bit more at the end, whenever you're gonna work it, it's gonna feel more kind of flour and egg, a proper dough kind of thing. Like it feels heavier compared to the pasta when you work it, but it's a very similar way. Do you make your own? You make your own fresh pasta, Rabbi?
Started during lockdown, so yes, I make tagliatelle with a bit of pulled beef ragu. Yeah.
Oh, very nice, very nice, great. I think the cooking is probably one of the best thing about this lockdown somehow. The fact that so many people got passionate about baking or cooking and thing, and I'm so delighted about it because I always done it and I found it somehow kind of therapeutical in so many levels. It's like to work with your hands and things. So, but I'm pleased to hear about other people getting passionate about it. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the dish itself. So in Italy, there is this one dish that is called precipizzi, which comes from Ancona. Ancona is in the east coast of Italy, near the Adriatic Sea, and where there used to be a relatively big community, and not really anymore, people scatter in larger towns. And the precipizzi is really made the similar dough without the ricotta, is a parve version. And the dough is made in small pieces that then it's put in a tray with the honey, left completely to dry, and then the next day you kind of eat it in square, like almost as if it was like a torrone or a nuga, and it's quite sticky, which is nice, but somehow it didn't quite do it for me. So I got really inspired by the same dough, which is very similar to the struffoli. Now the struffoli, it's a dish that is made mostly around the area of Naples in the south of Italy during the time of Christmas. Now, as food is concerned, as everything else, it's always a marriage of traditions and geographical realities and ingredients that you find. So Jews have been in Italy for over 2,000 years because they arrived before the destruction of the Second Temple, and then they were brought to slaves in 70 AD to Rome, as is witnessed in the Arch of Titus. And since then, there's been a presence of Jews. So they are more Italian than most Italians who are there today. And they really help shape the Italian cooking. Now, of course, the main difference is the kashrut. So the Italians perhaps got inspired by the traditional Italian dishes, and they changed them in order to conform to kashrut. And in the process, they create new and original recipes. So, for example, for Pesach, you would have a dessert like pizzarelle col miele in Rome, which are matzah fritters dipped in honey with orange zest and lemon and orange and pine nuts and raisins. Or, for example, inspired by the cold cuts of meat. Of course, in Italy, there's ham. It's very popular, and there's prosciutto, salame, and all that. And the Italian Jews, they created their own cuts of meat using kosher cuts. So in the north, for example, they use a lot of goose, and now much less, but I'm talking about the time of the ghettos. And in the center, in the area of Rome, where I am from, we use cold cuts of beef, and they're still very popular. Or another way of creating dishes is you would change on one of the ingredients of a dish in order to make it kosher. So, for example, the lasagne, you would change the traditional Italian lasagna is made of bechamel sauce and bolognese and ragu, and of course you can mix meat and milk. So you would replace one of the ingredients. Instead of meat, you would use spinach or pumpkin. And I'm not talking about necessarily today, which with the globalization of food, you can, and a lot of people being vegetarian or even vegan, to have a vegetarian lasagna seems the most natural thing. But actually, things really change in the last maybe 30 years. But before that, they would tend to be quite traditional, and that's one way to do lasagnas. And the vegetarian was really a bit out of the ordinary. And also, before the time of having milk of soya or almond or any kind of replacement. So it's really trying to think outside of the box for hundreds of years. So going back to the Struffoli and Precipizi, I thought, you know what, the Struffoli, I really love the way they present it, because actually it's presented in a crown shape. And inside they also put some candied fruit and they sprinkle it with a lot of colorful sprinkles on top. So I actually decided to use the recipe of the Precipizi, but I added the idea because, of course, for Hanukkah you have the tradition of frying, but another nice tradition is the tradition of eating dairy food, and that's for the story of Judith. So I decided to combine the two and to add the ricotta in it, and then to present it kind of as a pyramid shape, and with some icing sugar on top. So I don't add the extra candied fruit, I don't add the other colorful things, but so if you want to do a richer flavor, you can indeed. But somehow I think it doesn't quite need that much, because they're really kind of delicious the way they are. Does anyone have any question about either the recipe or the history bits, or are you all ready to start rolling out our Precipizi?
Question for you.
Yeah.
I'll jump in, but please, everybody else, if you have questions, take yourself off mute, just shout them out or put them in the chat or put your hand up. Question for you though, because I went to Rome about 5 years ago. The food there, the Roman Jewish food is lovely. It's very, very oily.
Yes.
As in deep fried, artichokes?
Artichokes, the artichokes,
artichokes. Oh, this amazing like pickle of deep fried courgette and stuff, but why?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. There is a lot of tradition of deep fried food, especially actually, yes, in Rome. One of the jobs, one of the things that Jews used to do in ghettos. So ghettos existed in Italy for over 300 years. The ghetto in Rome was established in 1555 until 1870. Okay. One of the traditions was to have what are called friggitori, which are people that fry fish on the corner of the street and sell it out. And people used to come from outside the ghetto to the ghetto to eat the fried food, because the Jews were known to fry really well. Now, one reason for it is also because the living condition in Rome, in ghettos in Rome and Venice in particular, were very poor. And to fried food, actually, it's really a cheap way somehow to make anything taste great, okay? Or to make something hard, for example, the artichokes. Now, the trick of knowing the artichokes is know how to peel them in the right way, so that when you fry them, you can eat everything. But almost anything that you would, the small pieces of small fish, even with the bones and the head really small, if you fry them, then you can just eat the whole thing. You don't need to throw away anything. So it's really a method that has been used for hundreds of years, most of it because for economic reasons. And then in the years eventually became quite fashionable to fry, and it makes quite, things taste quite nice. But you can't really, of course, have it every day. But there is a lot of fried food in Rome. And also, is a tradition to fry in the south of Italy. And in Sicily, there was a very large Jewish community, which at the time of the Spanish, at the beginning of the Spanish Inquisition, with the edict in 1492, there were about 40,000 Jews living in Sicily at the time. And they were expelled and they settled in the center and the north. And they brought with them their own ingredients and their own cooking tradition. And frying is very much one of the methods that they brought with them from the south to the center. So it's something that really goes back quite a long way, both as tradition and as economic need. And now there is a bit of fashion on top. So it's a lot of reasons to fry.
Brilliant. Anybody else got a question? You want to put your hand up? go off of mute or just type into the chat box. Just keeping an eye on it. Anybody?
Okay. So if you don't have question or you are shy, then you can go and get your dough, bring it here, and I'm gonna show you how we're gonna work it. And you can also, if you have a pan with oil, this is filled with sunflower oil, or you can use a vegetable oil or a neutral oil, and you can start warming up the oil, being very careful, of course. Okay, so I'm gonna bring the dough back, and I'm gonna show you how to do it. Okay. Now, just let you know, because I'm speaking from my, hold on one second. I'm speaking from my phone. So I can't quite see all the I can't quite see all the doughs or all your little windows. So if at any stage you want to show me something, then please let me know, and I'll just come over and have a look. 1 second, I just need to straighten this. Oops.
And what temperature are we going to want the oil at?
So ideally, you want to have it like at 150 degrees if you have a thermometer, or else just warm it up if you have an induction. Up at the moment, I'm putting it 5, but we can always make it a little bit higher. Eventually, you will see I'm going to drop a little piece of the dough, and then it's much easier to then control when it gets warm enough. So the dough, you should feel it should feel softer than before. Yeah, can you tell the difference at all? It's a really very soft, malleable dough. And what we're gonna do, so you have a couple of options, and really this not right way. I'll show you. You can divide it into 4. So one option, if you want to create a little ball, and you can just take out a piece and roll it in your hands, and just do it for all of them. And you see, I'm making it the size of about an olive or a big hazelnut, but you can make them the size that you want. If you make them slightly bigger, it may take a touch longer in the oil to fry. If you make them smaller, it will be faster to fry, but longer to make. So at the time, it goes more or less the same. Another way to make it is you can roll it out. Okay, you can roll it in your surface. Oops, and you can make like a thick, no, not that thick, like a cigar. So you can just roll it out, and you see, now you're able to roll it because you left it to rest. You see, this is more or less. So as if you were, I don't know, if you're making a challah and you want to, and you can make the strips one after the other. Yeah, so you start from the center. It's always easier, and you roll, and you make them more or less the same length. And then you do the same. You cut the other half in 2, and you can cut it. You can roll it with your hands like this if you prefer, either all the way or just part of the way. And again, you just roll from the center out. Yeah. Here we go. This, and then one more. And just roll it again. Okay. And now, you can, it's gonna be easier because when you cut it, you can just do one cut for the 4 ropes, okay? So you can cut so that then you can have more or less this size. And you can cut, you can put them next to each other and just kind of make a lot of cut, and then you can decide to divide them. You can either leave them like this and you will fry and they will absolutely keep the shape. It's not going to be a perfect round, but as flavor goes is exactly the same. And sometimes I quite like to leave them like this, of different shapes. Or if you were a perfectionist and you want something really nice and round, you can take each one of them, or even just slightly kind of roll them a little bit. Okay, so you can do that with all of them. And then what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna put a little bit of dough. Actually, I can the oil when it warms up, it always kind of looks like a web. Okay, all the lines. Of course, it becomes more liquid, so you can see the texture still changing. So until I can see the texture changing, I don't even really bother putting the piece of dough. But I will do it in a minute when I can see that you can almost see when the oil is kind of ready. Okay, so you can do the same again. You can just cut. I tend to do like you can do them one after the other, or I do like a few at a time. They're very easy. If they stick a little bit, don't worry. They're very easy to detach. Okay, and now you could, if you perhaps in an ideal moment, you could wait to fry them just because they're quite wet. So you could put them on a tea towel, maybe to dry for maybe half an hour or so, but it's not a must. You will see I'm gonna fry them straight away. But with the moisture, you will see it's gonna translate in a little bit of a foamy consistency. Okay, is the contrast, especially if you're doing the dairy version. I'm gonna put my little dough in the oil. It's not reacting yet. How your rolling going on?
I'm rolled.
Great. So you can see there's quite a few come out actually. So the great thing about the dish is that it really lasts. Now the one without the parve one, it lasts also like maybe 3 days or 4 days. It can get a touch dry perhaps. However, the best way is to just stir the honey maybe after a day, because the honey tends to just kind of settle toward the bottom. So the one that stay at the top, they dry out a bit. So just give it a little stir, okay? And then you can rearrange them again. So almost all done. I can see the dough is almost starting to bubbling a little bit. Now I'm not gonna be able to, I might move this in a little bit, but I try not to move the hot oil much. Okay, I'm gonna fry them in 2 lots because it's always good whenever you fry not to put too much in one go, so that the oil can keep the same temperature. Okay, so I can see the oil almost reaching the temperature. So at this stage, you're very welcome to fry together with me, or if you want to let them rest for the time being and just watch, you're very welcome to do that as well. Here you go. The smell also of the oil, once it becomes hot, it's great. I am, being Roman Jewish, I tend to like the flavor of fried food. But I'm going to show you what I usually do when I drain. I take a bowl and I put a sieve on top, and I let to drain most of the oil from there. And then after that, I tend to put a plate with paper. So I tend not to put necessarily the struffoli straight on the paper, but first to drain them in there. Okay, I can see the dough is starting to sizzle nicely. Hold on, almost there. So you can also do, sometimes I make two sizes. Sometimes I make one lot a little bit bigger to create kind of the base of the pyramid, and then smaller one to put on top. Sometimes I make them all big, sometimes I make all small. It really depends. I think food has to do with your mood as well, and what you feel like doing. It's not going to change necessarily much the flavor of it. The consistency is going to be the same. So just go with whichever part you prefer, and how patient you are of either rolling or frying. So I usually tend also to put some of the struffoli on the slotted spoon instead of dropping them in the oil, just to avoid any spillage. Okay, but so I just kind of I'm gonna put them down. Great, they're starting. Let's say the way that they look, I may show you. They look like a very happy jacuzzi. Okay, that's perhaps a good way of describing it. So they go in and they start really wobbling. Now it doesn't need to be too hot, the oil, otherwise they burn too quickly. They go black outside, and then they don't cook inside. Okay, so don't overheat your oil. I actually use often a temperature, a thermometer, sorry, to check the temperature, but I do appreciate that most people wouldn't have it at home. So I'm gonna cook it with you without. And just gonna put one more lot. Now the first round of frying, especially for home frying without a deep fryer, is that the first round tends to be a little bit slower than the one after, because for the consistency of the temperature of the oil. Okay, so I think this is all I'm gonna put on the first round. And all we want to do, we just want to stir them so they don't kind of sit just on one side, that they fry openly, evenly. Now at the moment, I'm gonna try and show you, although I don't want to put the temperature of the oil down, but you see can you see there's a little bit of bubbles. Now it's important that you keep your oil clean, that you use fresh oil, sunflower oil or vegetable oil, or actually peanut oil if you don't have any peanut allergy. They're good oil to fry it with. Grapeseed oil, they're all great oils to fry with. I wouldn't use an olive oil in here. It's too strong as a flavor. And you just really want to kind of let them you want them to become slightly golden, not too much, otherwise they can harden. So to get a light golden going, and I can smell the fried. It's great. Have you all made sufganiyot already? I realized that on the third day of Chanukah, you probably ate already quite a lot of things. Is anyone writing? I can see some writing, but I can't see quite.
I'll read it for you, sorry.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, if you can look at Ira and Bayla, I think if they want to get there, they've got some which they think already, but they want to show you.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, so show me.
I'm going to spotlight them so you can see them.
I don't think I can see that from my phone. So sorry, give me the name. I can see it there. Ah, yes. Oh, those are lovely. Great. Okay, that's a good size. Very good. Yeah. Well done. Excellent. Okay. So so yes, you can do, that's probably a first round. You can do the others. So mine, I just want them to cook a little bit longer, because if you just rush them too much, then they're not gonna cook quite enough inside. So now if you're doing the parvet version, it cooks slightly faster. Okay, the one with the ricotta, because it's a bit more moist, it just may take maybe 1 or 2 minutes longer. So is anyone else doing the one with the ricotta with me, or you all doing it parve? So let me see. So Ira, you making it? Is it parve or dairy ricotta? Yes. Okay, great. Okay, have you fried them all already, or you're still frying? You're still frying. Okay, great. Okay, so I think my first lot, it's ready to go. And the first lot, as mentioned before, the first lot always takes a little bit longer. Perfect. And I put them on the, I'm gonna put them on the sieve here to drain. And the smell is really nice. And you can have those either warm or cold the next day. Okay, so now I'm gonna put the second round to fry, and it may take maybe a couple of minutes less. Okay. A few more. So even if they stick a little bit on the spoon here, as soon as they heat the oil, they kind of separate. Okay, so don't worry too much. So this and one more lot, 2 more. Okay, great. So I have here, I'm doing on an induction, but I'm using a disc to kind of, so it's 7 or 8. Now, one thing I'm preparing in the meantime, it's like a frying pan, and there is already the honey in here. So if you want, you can do that while you're frying. And then you have, if you have a zest of an orange, you can add it. If you don't have it, you can use only the orange blossom water, actually, which I left in the counter there. And we're gonna grate the zest. I like to grate the zest last minute actually on this, because really the smell is just great, and it's so fresh. So it's one of the things that it doesn't take long, and I just like to do last minute. I'm gonna put all the zest in here and keep on stirring, multitasking. Now, one thing, this is, by the way, I don't know if you know this, it's called the microplane. I don't promote it or anything. I just think it's a great tool to have. It's a small grater, which is really fantastic for grating zest or of orange or lemon, and it's really, really fine. And it's very good also if you do ginger, for example. It's really grates the ginger very, very well. Okay, I'm gonna get the orange blossom water. Now, if you don't have either the orange zest or the orange blossom water, or neither, that's fine. You know, the honey, it's really what is gonna bind it together. So if you want to, yes, that's worked great. Yeah. Yes. Yes, nectar d'orange. Yes, that's good. Yeah. So you can put just like so I'm using the blossom water orange. It's a matter of flavor, of taste, how much to use. Maybe I have a quarter of a teaspoon or something like that. I just put a few drops in there. It's quite a strong flavor, so if you like it, just go for it. You can put as much as you want. If you like, I like it, but I prefer the flavor of the fresh orange. Okay, so I really tend to put that's why I tend to put both the orange zest and the blossom water, but you can also just choose one of the two. Now, as soon as I finish to fry the struffoli, I'm gonna melt the honey, and then we can put the Struffoli in there. I think there was a question. Rabbi, do you mind having a look at the...
If you aren't using orange blossom water, do you need to add water?
No, it's called orange blossom water, but it's a water on its own. So no, don't use water because you don't want it to soften, to kind of become too liquidy. Okay, so this is how the Struffoli, by the way, look right now. So you can see it's like a nice little, that's the size that I made. See, some are kind of, they open up a little bit, some not. It's fine, the one that kind of have a bit of a crack, they're gonna really absorb the honey very nicely. At this stage, I can put them on the plate. You see, if I have quite a lot of the oil at the bottom. So this is why I like to use the sieve. So if you want, I can show you inside. You open it, and inside they don't feel like fried at all. You know, they're quite dry, and the outside is quite crispy. You can try one if you want. They're nice. Okay, this is ready. The second batch. You see, it's been a little bit faster. Okay. Now I'm gonna let those drain. I'm gonna remove my hot oil. I'll be right back. Be careful with that. You should keep it. You should always discard, and you can melt your honey. You should always discard with oil carefully. Like I will leave it to cool down completely, and then this probably you can reuse it for something fried, sweet. So if you're still frying over the week, making soufganiot, or if you want to try the Struffoli again, then you can by all means reuse this oil for once more. Perhaps you can pass it through a sieve so it kind of cleans it a bit, or else you can just discard it. I find the best way is to put it inside either a jar or a Ziploc bag and then throw it in the bin, in the regular bin. Don't throw it in the sink. Don't throw it in the toilet. You're gonna clog all the drain. As soon as it cools down, it's really a bit of a problem. Okay. Oh, I can smell the melted honey with the orange blossom and the water, which is really nice. So this is how it looks. You see the honey changes consistency very quickly as soon as it melts, heats, and as soon as it starts to bubbles, I'm gonna switch it off, okay? Because it doesn't need to cook; it just needs to melt. And then at this stage, we're gonna add the Struffoli that we made, and we put it in the pan, and then we're gonna add the other. Okay, so all of them, we can put them in here. I'm gonna show you. And all I'm gonna do, I'm just mixing it together. Okay, so they just need to coat, so they all get the nice flavor of the honey and the orange zest and the orange blossom water. I think it's a really fun thing to do. Like I really love making them with that. I've got 9-year-old twin daughters, and they're quite and they quite love to make those. They love to kind of roll of them and of course to eat them as well at the end. But so you can leave them to really cold together. Now the thing is that ideally, so and you may want to just watch this stage just because ideally you want the honey to kind of cool down a little bit before putting it into a cake plate, because it's quite hot. I'm gonna put it in a plate just to show you how it looks like, okay? But if you can wait maybe even 50 minutes or so that the honey doesn't hot as well, then you can, but then do wait. But if you don't want to wait, then you can do it now. It's absolutely fine. I'm just going to show you. So you can take a cake plate. I like to take something with a stand, but doesn't need to be something with a stand. So you really try to stir it and stir it as much as possible. Make sure that they're all, I love the shine, the shiny color of them. And then you kind of just, you put them in the plate. And so if you want to do the traditional struffoli, the traditional precipizi, you could do the ball really small. You can put them all flat on a tray and then let them cool down and have them flat. But I'm gonna show you the way to do it in a pyramid a bit. And you can be as precise as you like on this pyramid, okay? I quite like the fact that it's not kind of a perfect circle or a perfect pyramid, that you just kind of, you pile them up and you just arrange them nicely. And I can feel already the honey starting to cool down on the pan, okay? So, and then you just make sure, maybe you can already start pouring them, but just want to show you how they look right now. See any leftover honey, I'm gonna add it, I'm gonna pour it on top. And now I can tell you that by tomorrow, a lot of this honey is gonna be at the base. So that's fine if the one on top is still very coaty with honey, but if you see that there is a little bit of a puddle at the bottom, that the best way is to just give it a bit of a stir so that they all coat again, okay? And then the last touch, when they cool down, it's gonna be easier because when they're hot, the icing sugar kind of melts quite quickly, but it's to add just icing sugar. If you like sprinkles, by all means, you can make them more struffoli-like and have them more sprinkled, okay? But otherwise, this is how, at the end, our struffoli are gonna look like. Yeah. So if you want to make, if you want to mount yours, you're very welcome to do that now, and then you can show me how yours look. And if you have any question, then please let me know. That's a good time. I can even read them if you want to. Oh, wonderful, Rabbi.
Yeah, mine don't look quite as good as yours, but mine are part.
No, they look great. They look great. Okay, and mostly I hope they will taste great. That's the aim, is that you will enjoy the flavor of them, and you will see the flavor changes. Yes, we can show you yours. Yes, please do. The flavor, yes, great. Okay, so you make quite big ones, which are really nice. The flavor inside is going to be more doughy, like mini donuts kind of thing. But yeah, they look great. So if you want, you can mount them up on a plate if you prefer. And great, I can see Lana, very nice. How do they, you tasted them? Do they look all right? Good. Okay, let me see. Someone else anyone else would like to show theirs? That's a great. So Aaron and Baila, are you mounting yours on a plate? Are you putting them on a plate? Yes. Oh, great. So it's a nice thing to do, then on a, perhaps hopefully next year when you're able to share with more people around, then it's a nice thing to put on a table, and people can just pick. You can even put like little toothpicks on top of each, and I have one by one. But I don't know if any of you is on social media. I am on Instagram mostly, which is Silvia Nacamulli. You can post your struffoli there, or you can follow what I do. That would be a pleasure. And but otherwise, thank you so much for hosting me this evening. I hope you had a bit of fun. If you have any question, let me know.
Thank you so much. So, very quick question: do you eat them hot or cold?
So it's a bit. You can you can have them now and try them how they taste now, and then try them tomorrow and you will see they're completely different. Like in 1 or 2 days, you will see the honey get absorbed by the dough. So the flavor kind of changes. So you can, and of course now you know the base, and then you can follow your taste buds. If you want it more lemony, more orangey, you can add more of one or the other. You can add more sugar if you like them sweeter. So I like to teach also the base and then let people create the perfect one for them.
How much butter, please? I forgot to say. How much butter?
20 grams.
20 grams. And what about the cheese? Do we have to put the cheese or not?
Yes, I did the 50 grams of ricotta, but if you want to do it parve, you can just leave the ricotta out and use 2 tablespoons of oil instead.
Oil. Thank you. Thank you.
Or margarine if you prefer. Yeah.
Okay.
As long as you melt it before, that's fine.
But it's only 20 gram butter and oil as well.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you. It was very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Anybody else got any other questions? I've got a comment here, Silvia, from Natalie, who's saying, thanks so much. Can't wait to eat them. I've already had one. To be honest, it's not what I expected. I generally expected in my head donuts, but they're very different.
I know.
And I quite like them.
Yeah, they're quite different. And somehow I like the fact that they're different because we always kind of, we are used to eating the donuts. So these are more doughy.
Yeah, it's okay. Oh, sorry.
But they're more kind of doughy. They're almost kind of biscuits type. You could almost bake them and have them like as a little.
It feels, it's got a biscuity type of texture with a soft center and then this kind of really nice honey around the outside. So
yeah, but they don't taste much fried. Can you feel the fried, or they're not heavy fried?
They taste dangerously healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's
you know, Silvia,
there's nothing unhealthy.
In Morocco, my mother used to make the same with the dough, and she used to put it with a lot of honey. It's to be very hard. She used to cut it. Do you know? It was to make it.
Okay. So that's the similar one of the original precipizzi.
Yes.
Is really to make smaller ones, to make them flat. You make them hard and then you cut it.
Yeah, it's called حلوة بالعود. Something like that. Cake with the honey. Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of different versions of that's kind of a similar idea. So the so it's quite interesting to see how
I remember it. She used to make it when I was a little girl, and she would cut it. It was very hard and very tasty with the dough. Exactly.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So try this and see how it goes.
I'll try. Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, so much. Shavua
Thank
tov.
you.
Shavua
tov.
Thank you so much, Silvia. I'm going to assume nobody else has any other questions. We have a thank you from Tessa Arnold and also from Ivan Bela, who have dropped off. But thank you so much. Nathan, are you going to show us your final version? Let's see. Very nice.
Thanks. Oh, that looks great. Wonderful. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you. I hope everybody has a wonderful
Thank you anytime.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much. Chag Sameach.
Bye-bye.